here I am, applying a little bit of epoxy to the corners. Alright, I like to apply it kind of against the wall back there, because it tends to flow less when it's actually in contact with something else. If you just dabbed it right on top of the thing and didn't allow it to touch the side walls of the puzzle, it would tend to flow down, and you wouldn't get a good little layer there. So obviously make sure that your pieces are properly set into place, and lay this on top just like that. Make sure that the cards are nicely aligned on top. Now if you wanted to, you could certainly take a second rubber band like this and rubber band the bottom pieces too, although personally I don't feel that's necessary. If anything, this might actually be a bad idea, which is why really I shouldn't have even bothered demonstrating this to you. I think it's kind of a bad idea because it might put undue stress on the pieces at the bottom and maybe push them slightly out of misalignment simply because you're applying too much stress. Really, I mean, this is just a delicate little process. If you've got a light rubber band, okay, fine, go for it, but don't use a heavy duty one like that. Let it sit like that for about 5 minutes, or actually longer than that. You actually don't mind if the epoxy sets. Even if it sets for an hour or two, it's fine, because this stuff doesn't truly fully cure for 24 hours, but again, I mean, for what little bit you applied, you'll be alright. Once you've given the glue some time to set, you can go ahead and remove the puzzle. Okay, all I'm going to do here is get this stuff out of the way, but not throw it away, of course, because you'll still need it for the other layer. Again, the layer with the attached corner. Now, before you think, well, wait a minute, I'm pretty close to done here, want to just glue on the other layer and be done with it. Well, the problem is these pieces, glued on with just a little bit of epoxy, aren't really that strong. So then why didn't I put more epoxy in the first place? Well, you put too much epoxy. Because of the way these things are shaped, it would flow right out. Bottom line is, you really do need to disassemble this puzzle. However, before you disassemble it, there is one thing you need to do, and that is you need to make sure that you mark these pieces so that you know what the relationship of one piece to the other is. Because when you reassemble it, you will want to reassemble it with the pieces exactly where they were before. And again, the reason for that is because this puzzle will never be as perfectly aligned as it is when you first built it like this. Oftentimes you will find when you scramble the puzzle that small bits are misaligned, or there's a little bit of a gap or whatnot. It's not really okay for a custom puzzle, but really when you finish solving it, you want to be able to say, hey, look, this puzzle is about as straight as it can be. So how do I do that? Well, in this particular case, I'm going to use a magic marker, or a permanent marker here. You could certainly use bits of stickers. You can use other methods to mark it. Alright, so now I've finished marking this. Now I need to disassemble this puzzle. Be very careful when you do this, because the epoxy may not have set completely yet, and also there is not a lot of epoxy that's holding this puzzle together. So if you're not careful, one of these pieces will pop off, which you may want it to later, but not when you don't want it to. Okay, so how do I disassemble this? Well, again, by now, as I said earlier in other videos, you should have filled in the pieces. This is how this will allow you to more easily pop these pieces without worrying about accidentally popping off the corners which you just attached. And again, I'm using my round bladed X-Acto here, and only gripping by the middle edge pieces, popping loose. Yep, piece is not coming out. There we go. Now we can disassemble this puzzle as we need to, and take a quick look. So what exactly are we looking for? What we're looking for now is we want to look down into here of the corner pieces, and what we want to do is make sure that these corners are aligned up pretty well with the inside walls of the 3x3 piece. So again, if we were drawing this thing out, if you imagine this to be the corner piece, and here are the inside walls of it, what we want is, when this small keychain corner is attached, we want it to be as perfectly aligned as possible. And again, you know, the wall dimensions, we want them to be as close as we can get it, so that these points all are about the same thickness. If you can do that, if you can take a quick look and say to yourself, okay, that's pretty good, that's pretty good, yep, and yeah, if those four look pretty good, then more than likely, even if the pieces are not, you know, even if they're moved around later, such that the numbers aren't matching up, they should at least give you adequate alignment. Well, what if the pieces don't? What if, for example, one of these is totally way off, where instead of being aligned like so, it's, you know, like much farther apart, or maybe the pieces aren't perfectly, you know, aligned, they're crooked or not parallel. Well, that's why we only attach them with just a tiny little bit of epoxy. All you need to do is take an X-Acto knife, or any other tool for that matter. I like using my Swiss Army knife here. Just go underneath and pry it off. Just pop it loose. Scrape off the epoxy. Odds are the epoxy hasn't been 100% set, so it should be fairly easy to disassemble and try it again. Odds are you'll probably end up having to do all four of them at once, because if one is off, then really all of the other pieces will be off too. But do that a couple of times if you have to. And again, I mean, I admit I've done this a few times, so I don't tend to make that mistake much anymore. But once you do that, you will have four perfectly aligned pieces. So once you have these pieces, you'll want to reassemble it. Reassemble the puzzle. Again, remember, the only reason we took it apart was to take a look at these pieces. Reassemble the puzzle carefully. Once again, making sure that all your numbers are matched up. And then once you've done that, then you can concentrate on your second layer, which works the exact same way.